Hi, I'm Carole Robinson. Welcome to this edition of County Happenings, where we talk about what's happening in the county with the man in the know, the mayor of Williamson County, Rogers Anderson.
How are you today?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Had a little traffic trouble getting here? You running late?
You know, all those country roads with the speed limit of 30 and 40 when I need to go 70.
Well, they're there for safety.
Yeah.
Not for people to get hurt on. So you got here safely.
I got here safely, going 30 miles an hour for 28 miles.
Did the hasn't the highway department done an excellent job getting those potholes filled? Now, I mean, we're still working on them.
Yeah.
But we've got a bunch of them done.
Yeah. On the major roads, there's roads still out in the Netherland that need some touching up, but they can only do what they can only do.
Eddie Hood, our highway superintendent, told me that probably just shy of $400,000 worth of salt was purchased.
And that's why the roads are the way they are.
We restockpiled our salt because we went through about 2,500 tons of salt in that cold winter period there. So hopefully we're out of it by mid-April and first part of May. Yeah. We're out of that now. We won't have to deal with it in a few weeks. We're already starting to pave, and the guys are out on the roads fixing the potholes the best they can. So if you're watching this show and you're in the unincorporated area out on the county roads, feel free to call my office, 790-5700, and we'll get the information to Eddie and his men and try to get that fixed.
Well, and it wasn't only the salt, with all the ice and the snow and stuff, they had to plow, and boy, that was digging up spots on the roads too.
And we don't, on those county roads, we don't use brine. A lot of the cities use brine, but we use just the good old rock salt, I call it. If we don't use it for roads, we'll make ice cream out of it. Not really, but it's basically, it's the same. I hadn't thought of it that way. It's the same, little difference in grade. But I don't even know what rock salt cost anymore. I don't think I made any homemade ice cream last year, but I know rock salt and the salt we buy, they're all expensive.
Yes.
We buy it by the tons, and you buy it by the
pound.
By the pound, probably. It's kind of like I've said for years. It has nothing to do with what's happening in Williams County, but I've said for years, probably the most expensive water in the world is plastic water.
Yeah. And when it first came out, when bottled water first came out, I go, why would people buy water in a bottle
you were
when
wrong
you can just
again,
go to the
weren't
faucet? Yes, I was.
Well, and some of that water, recently I had the opportunity to go on a trip, and they had some water. I read it came from Iceland, and it was in a little square plastic container, and I thought, whoa, that's a long way to get water here. I don't know what it costs.
I want to know what they do to it so it doesn't get stale. Because water's sitting around a while, it starts to get stale.
Well, now you're making me feel bad, but I haven't been sick off of it. But it said it came from Iceland. A lot of things going on in the county.
Yeah. This always seems to be a happening county.
April and May are our budget time for the year. Actually, it goes on about 5 or 6 months out of the year, but we're into the final, what I call the 75, the crunch time, 75 to 85%, trying to get all the departments, all the numbers together, from elected, appointed, and get all this put together so we can have our public meeting, which will be in the month of May. We've heard we have seen one budget presentation to both of the committees, the education and the budget committee itself for the schools, and they're anticipating additional growth. Can you imagine that?
In Williamson County?
And 1,200 more children coming in August than graduate at the end of May. Wow. We've got graduation coming just around the bend.
It just seems like yesterday, well, maybe the day before yesterday, school started, and now all of a sudden it's fixing to end.
Well,
it's just incredible. It just...
By the time this show airs, I was talking to a gentleman here that rents tucks. They've been around a long time. The other day I ran into him. And I said, well, how's the tux business? He said, this is the year we make or break. On the weekend of April the 16th, a couple of days after tax day, he said they had over 500 tuxes
Wow.
for a Thursday. They had one school that had their prom on Thursday night because they didn't go to school Friday, and then Friday and Saturday, over 500 tucks going out the door. Now that's a lot of tucks.
Yes, it is. It's hard to imagine having to stock 500 tuxes.
Well, he doesn't.
He gets them from other places.
Yeah,
Okay.
most of the tuck places, I think they keep some around, but it's just amazing to me. And you think there's 500 prom dresses. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm speaking from the male perspective, and the female
Well,
certainly.
and the girls don't rent those.
No, they don't rent them. Well, I think there are a few places now that do that, by the way.
See, where have I been?
And in fact, one of the ladies in our office's daughters having one at her school over at UTC, and the mom and this daughter spent about a day and a half, 2 days looking for dresses and couldn't find it, and all the accessories that go with it. And so they went online. You can rent a dress, a lady's dress, just like you do a men's tux now.
Oh my gosh.
So to let you know, when that comes about, when that husband of yours takes you out
Takes me to the prom
take
finally.
you to a prom finally, that there's an opportunity for you here.
Won't that be fine?
We'll let it go at that. But going back to the budget, it's the directions that we kind of went on this year. We'll see how the revenue stream was coming in. Our numbers are looking very strong. With this continued evaluation, I'm going to use that word, evaluation of Williamson County, the values holding very steady and growing. Our sales tax, except for the month of February, which is what we were talking about earlier with the cold weather, our sales tax have been very strong coming out of our mall area predominantly and all the other places around town. In fact, we were up almost to 10% sales tax growth.
Wow.
Now, in February, we actually had a minus number because they were out so much.
Nobody could get. The mall was closed
The
several
mall
days.
was closed, and people weren't going to travel in that bad
Yeah.
weather. And so across the state, and particularly in the areas such as Middle Tennessee, but we've been showing good 6 and 7% average now. Our overall county values are holding very steady. Our collections, they were showing me the other day on the tax bills, they're in the 97 percentile. I mean, you always have 96 to 97% of collected taxes. You always have some that you are not going to collect, and you have to go through the processes to collect it. But any time that you can have that kind of strong tax base, the way we are, and the people are showing responsibility by paying their taxes, because nobody likes to pay them. You don't, I don't. But there are many, many services that we have to have that, paying the
Right.
people, roads, schools,
And
et cetera.
Williamson County hasn't had a tax increase in, was it 8 years?
Long time, Carol. I think I still had dark hair.
It's been a long. The tax rate is what, 231?
Yes, ma'am. Our tax rate, actually, I did some work on that over a year ago, and our tax rate is 231. And I think the research I looked at about 15 or 20 years ago was $2.96. Now that would say, well, you've had a tax reduction. No, you really haven't. I mean, I could sit here as a politician and say, yes, we have, but it's because you have more people at higher values.
Right.
And you every 4 to 5 years, which next year will be a reevaluation. And so you'll have to re-trigger and retool those values based upon the new growth so that you can
So your assessment goes up, but the tax rate can stay the same or go down.
it normally goes down, and then you make that determination. Do you adjust that assessment rate? If say it dropped 10 cents, it went down to 221 or 220, you have to re-trigger, set it back on what it is after the assessment. So if it's at 220, and then if you needed to bring it back up to 231 to pick up some extra dollars along the line, then it would take county commission action. There's a lot of discussion. There's no appetite for this. A tax increase at the state or federal or local levels. But you're seeing cities mostly, but some counties shifting, going to more of a fee for. In other words, if you wanted something, then you'll you'll see a higher cost in that area. You see it in your we don't have sewer in the county, but your sewer bills, your water bills, things like
Services.
services that are provided. Instead of raising the overall property rates or the city tax rate, they're raising those individual fees.
Fees for
It's still
basically a tax.
it's a cost increase.
It's a cost increase, but it's a user fee then, and it's people who are using it are taxed, and not people who don't.
There are very limited ways that the county commission, who establishes that tax rate, which, under my oversight and direction, but there are very few items that they have at their disposal to generate more revenue. Property tax is one of them. We've mentioned that. The wheel tax, what you pay for your car tags. Our car tags are for a normal passenger automobile, not a truck, not a big truck, not a dually. It's $49.75. Half of that goes to the state. The other half we keep here. And we'll go through, somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 350,000 cars that go through here on an annual basis. Well, there's 200,000 people.
Right.
So you almost have to say, just like your family, everybody's got one per driver.
Yeah.
Some people have 3 and 4 cars.
Right.
And so each one of those is $49.75. So we get to keep $24.75. The other goes back to the state. That money is used predominantly in your roads, and it goes into county general that you can use it for many things. Some of the surrounding counties have car tag sales of 75, some 90, some 100.
And I thought there was a limit as to what they could have. There isn't?
There is no limit. If you remember 6 or 8 years ago, the county commission at that time was asking for a $25 increase on the car tags to take it to $75, approximately $75. And all of that increase was going to go paying for school debt buildings.
Right.
And the county commission approved it. And for them to do it, they had to approve it 2 consecutive readings, which is something we don't deal with. Cities do 2, 3 readings all the time. But state law said you had to have 2 readings, so they approved a $25 increase on the car tax. And they had to do it 2 times. They did. Well, then
The people got a little annoyed.
they got a little annoyed, and they got 10% of the signatures of the registered voters and put it on a ballot, and then it was defeated.
Right.
So there's and that hasn't changed. There's no appetite at all to raise taxes, but now people want
Services.
they want services.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so you have
and
to
you hear that all the time.
and you have to figure out ways. Some people think, well, you spend too much money on schools. Other people say, well, you don't spend enough, but we got to keep our schools. So it's a constant battle all the time. Some would say, why would a city or county be in the parks and recreation business? And because our Constitution didn't make any reference about parks and rec. And it really depends if you're using those services. Most of us have had children, and those children have either played baseball or football or soccer. Soccer's a big item in this county.
Sure is.
And lacrosse, all of those. Well, it requires fields. And so if your children are using these services, or if you're still young enough still playing ball, you think that's all right. But as you get a little older, the question crosses your mind, why am I paying for all this? My children don't use it. So it is constant all the time. You and I are way past the years of having children going to school.
But if we're doing the grandkids.
That's right. And I want good schools for my grandchildren. Right. And somebody paid for you and I, or helped pay for you and I when we went along. Might have not been as much and didn't have as many amenities, but we do continue to have great schools. Just recently, 2 or 3 more of our schools were identified at the federal level.
3 of them, yeah. That's
3 for
Blue Ribbon.
And that's a real strong statement.
Right.
One of them was really interesting to me, and if you're watching this show, this is no disrespect to you, but a few years ago, you wouldn't have thought about Hillsborough being a Blue Ribbon school.
I knew exactly. At one time, it was one of the lowest performing schools in the county, and now look at it. It's really been
a
turned
high-performing school, expectations, which all centers around your leadership, which centers around your principal. If you have a very strong principal with high values, high expectations out of her staff, then you'll see that.
Yeah.
Then you'll see that turn. I think of the principal at Page High School.
Yes.
You know, one of the premier high schools in our entire area. We think of Brentwood and Ravenwood and Franklin, and you know, all of our schools are good, but Page has consistently
Yeah, they're
been
just kind of quietly just doing it.
doing their thing. So, all to say this is that if you move to our community, or if you're one of the people that have been born and raised here, it's constant, it's change, but it is growth, and it's evaluations, and I'm not sure we have a bad school. I think some of them may offer a different curriculum
Right.
for that particular community. Their parents have said, we'd like to have more health care, for an example, Ravenwood,
And a lot, and
Brentwood.
that goes back to the community. You know, even though we're a very big school system, we're a school system filled with communities, and each community is unique, and they want that uniqueness. They want that character, and it's nice when it's reflected in the schools too.
And the challenge is going to be not so much, 80% of the budget is payroll.
Yeah, and that's always going to be that way.
And in any organization it's that way. 75 to 80% of your budget is all about the payroll. Whether you think it's too high or too low depends if you work there.
Yeah.
If you work there, it's never enough. If you're outside looking in, it's, what are they paying them that money for? So I've always said, though, whether it's schools or running a landfill or a highway department, is having good men and women that can sit there and justify some of the cost. If you're in law enforcement, the sheriff, there's never enough good men and women to work in the jail division or the patrol division. There's never enough equipment. But and I'm picking on the sheriff because he really does an outstanding job of weighing and balancing how many vehicles do you need. But just in the last few years, you and I did a show recently, 3 years ago, about SROs.
School resource officers.
School resource officers. And so we put those in every single school, including Franklin Special. And that added $4.5 million to the budget.
Just like that.
Just like that every year.
And that's it's revolving.
And over the last couple of weeks, with all of the phone calls coming in to clear out the schools because of bomb threats, as I told
Somebody didn't want to take some tests.
That's exactly right. And we had another one we've had in the week of tax time, not text, test time. I think we've had 6. We had actually had one just about an hour ago, another one.
Yeah.
And we're getting them all over, so you know, we're all scratching. It's very disruptive. It is very expensive. It is to say
inconvenient.
A lot of people, a lot of moms and dads have to come and get their children.
Yeah, and it's disconcerting because there's that fear factor that you know, immediately you think, oh my gosh, but you know, in the back of your head you're hoping it's a hoax, but still.
It's the old theory you and I grew up with hollering help when you're in the water for fun, and then eventually you holler help and nobody pays any attention to you, and so we can never get to that point. So my solution, and I know I'm on camera, so I'm going to go ahead and say it, is start having school on Saturday, and all those kids will start telling on those other kids, we'll fix this problem.
make up those hours.
They'll make up those hours. So that would be very disruptive.
Oh, yeah.
But some way they've got to get those tests in, and hopefully we will find out who's doing this. And some of them are just copycats.
Of course.
And chances are the kids are doing it. They don't think about the long-term repercussions of it. But if they get caught, it's a very severe penalty because the DA has already expressed you're going to pay. The parents are going to have to pay for all the extra costs.
Whoa.
And law enforcement from all communities and the states gets very expensive. So as she said in a press conference, it will be thousands of dollars that for somebody. Plus that child doesn't go back to that school anymore. You won't have to worry about taking tests at that school.
Yeah, that's cool.
At that school.
So do they go to the ALC? Okay.
Now they'll go while they're in juvie.
Yeah.
They're going to go to school.
Yeah. And they're not quite as patient with you.
No. You don't have the same amenities
No.
and comforts that you would have at home in the juvenile detention. It's a little different.
And you don't go to the principal, you go to jail.
That's right. It's very, very serious, and we're making joke about it. And so far, it's not funny, but it is funny. All boys, and I'll keep you out of it, I'll show my age, we've all done something like it. When I was a boy, it was to take, not me personally, of course, but take cherry bombs and put down into the toilets and cause a big leak and have to shut school down. And so
well, my husband used to put them in mailboxes.
I'm telling
along
you,
with
and
the
all those are federal.
Dead crows.
Yes, a lot of offenses here. We probably shouldn't be airing this show with all this, but
kids don't need ideas.
but there's a prank and roll in somebody's yard, which is not as bad.
Yeah.
But things do occur.
Kids are going to be kids, and my theory has been, and the people that know me understand, if you start making things that they would normally do illegal, then they're going to do something else.
But we are moving on the budget, and I think we'll have a.
So you don't expect a tax increase?
Absolutely not, none whatsoever. We've been very fortunate. We'll move the pot around and try to accommodate all the growth. For schools, it will probably be in the neighborhood of $17 to $18 million more budget than they had last year, which is over $1 million a month more, $1.5 million. And some of that will come with the increased sales tax, more people moving into your area. But the thing I worry about over the next 3 to 5 years, it's just like at your house. You have maintenance issues.
Right.
And we've got 45 plus school buildings.
And if you continue doing only being able to pay the mortgage and not put a new roof on it once in a while, you're going to have problems.
Well, you have to. And you have to replace vehicles. You do have to do, in the world we live in today, the electronic age, about the time you buy it and then put it into the classroom, it's almost obsolete.
Yes.
So you have to keep the latest technology and the best technology, because that child that's a middle schooler now going into high school, the technology changes, and so when they go so fast. And I read an article the other day, I don't know how accurate it is, but it certainly made sense to me, that 70% of the things that are out there have been on the electronic side have all come in the last 10 years. And
it makes sense.
So in fact, let me say this, I know we're in the last 5 minutes on economic development. There's a company that's settling in. They haven't made a big splash yet, but it's scientists. They came from Vanderbilt, they came from Indianapolis, and they have a process now that they can take a vial of blood from you, and that could be at your doctor's office for your physical, or you could be at the hospital, and they can take that vial of blood, and then within 24 hours, put it in this machine. The machine goes through all kinds of reviews, sampling in it, and they can tell what what medicine he has in his body. All of us react different to medicine.
Right.
Well, particularly elderly people, they may be taking as many as 8 to 10, 15 different medications, and they don't feel good.
And sometimes they start interacting with each other.
And my body may process a particular drug, and prescription drugs I'm talking about, it may process it and absorb it differently than what your body does. We already know that, but there's never been that kind of quick, reliable testing to say these are the parameters. And my mom, who just passed away last year, sometimes she would get a little bit memory loss. And did she take it at 8 o'clock, or was she supposed to take it at 9 o'clock? And so this new startup venture company is here in Williamson County now that will be able to take that and work with hospitals and physician practices and medical groups, and they're here, they're local. And they took some startup capital. The equipment, I was recently over there, the equipment itself was $1 million. Just one piece of equipment, not much larger than this table. And when they get through, and they have all kinds of protocols, so if a number comes out that's just skewed the whole graph off the charts, they have a way to redo that.
Wow.
And it's using just a regular draw of blood. And so it's kind of...
So they can tell which drugs are interacting with each other, and
where you are,
and how to fix it.
So if you and I go to the doctor, and I tell Sam Bastian, my doctor, I'm not feeling good today. And, he can run this test, and if I'm on 2 or 3 medicines, he can see how it's I'm being absorbed. Am I taking it on time?
Right.
Very, very, very interesting company. Now that's called tech. That's high tech, and I'm going back to schools. Those are the young people, that future scientist, that future chemist, that future teacher or person there is
even the computer technology
that's right.
person.
And I mean, the equipment, they told me, was made in Germany. And companies on the East Coast and West Coast do this. But you don't think of a little company like that in Franklin, Tennessee,
Right.
in Williamson County. So we're beginning to see that kind of technology. We are the Silicon Valley for healthcare. Hospitals, no question. We have more in this 25-mile radius of anybody else in the United States and the world. 2 of the largest are here. So it only stands to reason we're beginning to see that draw now from that healthcare world that will be in the bio world, and it's coming.
It's amazing. It's scary and fun, and it's all that,
And good jobs.
yeah.
But it takes a special young person to go through that kind of rigorous education, and not everybody's suited for that. But those are the kind of jobs in the future we've got to be prepared for.
Well, and it's not only that; it's just taking care of your car. You need the technology experience because everything is high tech in the car now. So there's nothing simple. There's nothing just opening the hood and putting the battery cables on.
Well, and I know we're winding it up, but you and I are getting older. I want somebody to check me out good.
Yeah, exactly. I want to live to be 100 so I can spend some time with my kids, my grandkids. And next time we'll spend some time with y'all at County Happenings. See you next time.
Reading the Day by Sandy Coomer. Before the book is opened on the day, I gaze upon the cover's bright design and listen to what words the morn might say as introduction to this storyline. As chapter follows chapter, there is pause to rest my eyes before the rising plot can fix me in some independent clause or capture me within some deed or thought. Some characters, some themes I've known before, but every word's arranged as something new, some passion, some deep lesson in the lore of living set for me to find, pursue. What little time to read the day, to learn its heart before the final page is turned.